Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. We have a ton of AEW news stories to get into today, so let's get straight into the stories. And let's start off with the Friday Night Dynamite ratings for last week. Now, I know people are going to be rolling their eyes when we're starting off with a rating story or a viewership story, but it's important when it comes to Dynamite because the Dynamite ratings and viewership have been what people have been talking quite a lot about over the course of the last few weeks. Now, obviously, Dynamite's been in a really difficult position over the course of June, the month of June, because they've been preempted for the entirety of this month. Because of the NBA playoffs on TNT, AEW Dynamite's not being airing in its usual Wednesday night time slot. They've been moved to Friday nights. Not only have they been changed from the nights that they usually would air on, from Wednesday to Friday, but they've also been moved out of the time slot that they usually would air on too. Usually, of course, AEW Dynamite airs on Wednesday nights from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States, but now they're airing on Friday nights from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Time in the United States, and obviously the viewership and the ratings have not been good. Now, people that don't like AEW, people that have an agenda against AEW, people don't like the programming, people don't like Tony Khan, people don't like the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, whatever, have been obviously having a field day with this, ignoring the context that obviously, Dynamite's ratings and viewership is going to be down significantly because they're not on their usual date, their day that they would usually air on Wednesday nights, not usually in their normal time slots that they usually air, would be airing from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. They're from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Time. It's not been good. Nevertheless, people have been talking about that when AEW does come out of this in the month of July. Obviously they're going to be returning to touring in July, but when they come out of this in the month of July, is their overall ratings, are their overall viewership numbers on Wednesday nights from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. on TNT, are they going to be affected? So it's an important story to talk about. Now, I know when it comes to ratings in general, people don't like it when we talk about ratings because people say, look, ratings aren't the be-all and end-all. They're not important anymore. There's so many other metrics. That is true. Ratings aren't the be-all and end-all of pro wrestling that they were in the late 1990s in the Monday Night Wars. There's certainly a plethora of other metrics that you can measure nowadays to determine a success of a show, whether it is television ratings, whether it's social media metrics, whether it's YouTube numbers, whether it's merchandise sales, whether it's whatever. There's so many different metrics to measure nowadays. Certain demographics, people don't even care about the overall viewership number. They only care about certain demographics, all that kind of stuff. But it is important to talk about. Now, Friday's new edition of AEW Dynamite, featuring Adam Page and 10 defeating Brian Cage and Powerhouse Hobbs in the main event, reportedly drew 487,000 live viewers on TNT. This is according to Nielsen via Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics. Now, the positive out of this is that this is up 5.4% from last week's Friday Night Dynamite show, which drew 462,000 viewers for the post-Double or Nothing show and was the lowest viewed AEW Dynamite of all time. Thurston estimated the Dynamite show on Friday night drew a 0.19 rating in the key 18 to 49 demographic, which is even from last week as the lowest key demo rating in show history. Friday night's Dynamite viewership was down 28% from the same week in 2020, which went head-to-head, of course, with NXT on one of the Wednesday night time slots. The key demographic was also down 17.4% from the same week last year. Again, people that don't like AEW, people that don't like Tony Khan, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, they'll love to jump all over this. Of course they'll love to jump all over this. Well, why wouldn't they? Because this goes to prove their point, right? Oh, you can't draw. This doesn't draw. See, people don't like this program. This isn't pro wrestling, all that kind of stuff. People just, they revel in this. And I'm hardly defending AEW Dynamite. I suppose maybe I am to a point. But I just think it's important in any story, whether it's AEW, WWE, Impact Wrestling, New Japan, whether it's ratings, whether it's storyline, whether it's whatever story it is, it's important to look at these things in context. And you have to look at these recent Dynamite ratings in context, which I think a lot of people are refusing to do. When you look at these ratings and this viewership, as I mentioned, what sticks out here? What's changed? What's caused these ratings to change? A significant change has happened to cause these ratings to change. And that is that Dynamite's not being aired on Wednesday night, so they've been taken off of their own night. They've also been taken out of the time slots. In addition to that, they're having to follow SmackDown that goes from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. And we've seen at this point that viewership base that is watching SmackDown on Fox on Friday nights isn't coming over. Obviously, the numbers themselves point that out. But in addition, it was Dave Meltzer the other week that reported this, that only 13% of people that watch 1 minute of SmackDown on Fox on Friday nights are watching 1 minute of Dynamite on TNT on Friday nights. So obviously, the time slot, obviously the night is not beneficial for AEW right now. Again, the big discussion point, I think, is that when AEW does come out of this preempted stage, once they go back to being on Wednesday nights from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. on TNT, once these NBA playoffs are over, once they return to touring in July, the big question will be how much has it affected AEW's viewership base going forward? Because a month is a long time, especially in the world of pro wrestling. A month is a really long time in the world of pro wrestling. Have some of the fans that usually tune into Dynamite on Wednesday nights, have they just said, you know what, didn't miss it, I'm not going to return? I think that would be the concern if I'm Tony Khan. I think that would be the concern if I'm AEW officials would be, okay, we know less people are watching. The numbers are there. So obviously we can use the excuses of the different nights and we can use the excuses of the different time slots. I think that's a fair excuse to make. But it is an excuse, but it's a fair excuse to make. The big challenge now is when we go back to Wednesday nights, what's the assumption there? Is it an assumption in itself that all of the viewers that we did have are going to come back? I don't know if that's set in stone. I don't don't think AEW knows that either. They might be concerned, okay, maybe these viewers have just decided, look, nothing's going to happen on these Friday night Dynamites because they're in a difficult time slot. They're on a different night of the week. I'm busy, got no interest. I've got other things going on. I won't watch AEW. Once they move back to Wednesday nights, is the assumption that these fans that have just decided not to watch because of the time slot change, are they just going to go back, okay, now they're back in the normal time slot, I'm going to watch it again? Who's to say they will? I know absence makes the heart grow fonder, but maybe people have just gone, you know what, didn't miss out that much by not watching Dynamite. I just won't bother watching it again. It's very difficult to get viewers back once you've lost them. Historically, we've seen that. Not impossible, of course, and obviously the viewership and the ratings will go up. They will go up once they get back in that more favourable time slot on their favoured night of Wednesday night with no competition and, again, in a better time slot of 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. But there will be a concern, I think, we're assuming these fans are going to come back. Will they actually? We don't know. And that would be a concern if I was an AEW official. That would be a concern of mine. Again, we think they're going to come back. We don't know. Obviously, another conversation has to be held about the AEW Rampage show, because obviously that's a 1-hour show that's airing from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. It's the supposed third hour of Dynamite that TNT really wanted, but what are the numbers going to look like for that? Because if we're using Friday Night Dynamite as kind of a pilot scheme for AEW Rampage, we're seeing that this might not be favorable at all. The numbers won't be great. And if the numbers aren't great, again, in the same vein that you've got these people that don't like AEW, that have an agenda against AEW, that don't like the programming, don't like Tony Khan, don't like the products, don't like whatever, they just can't stand AEW. And there are those out there. When the numbers aren't great for Rampage, which I don't think they're going to be amazing, especially if you look at these Friday Night Dynamites as a pilot scheme for this, if the numbers aren't great, just think of the PR that this is going to lead to. See, once again, you can't draw. See, look, AEW tried to get too big for their britches. They tried to launch a new show. They tried to do this, and look, they're terrible. They tried to compete with SmackDown on Friday nights. Who do they think they are? They got crushed. They got squished. They thought they were bigger than WWE. They thought they were this. They thought they were that. See, WWE conquers all and pro wrestling and blah, blah, blah. And you just have to go, oh, okay, block, or mute, whatever. Anyway, it does raise a point, though, in that what are these numbers going to look like for Rampage on Friday nights? Probably not good, obviously, I think, because we've seen at this point that the idea or the concept of, well, if we have a show on Friday nights that follows SmackDown, so say you watch SmackDown on Fox, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., you enjoy that, and you go, tell you what, I'll have another hour of pro wrestling. I'll switch over to TNT. I'll watch Rampage. It's an hour-long show. That's more palatable to watch anyway for me in terms of pro wrestling. You watch that show, you go, great, I enjoyed that. That isn't being proved to be accurate. The problem is that people aren't crossing over. SmackDown isn't really a lead into Dynamite. It's not. Now, obviously, it's not really a lead in anyway because it's on a different network. It's on network television, and, this is on TNT. It's on cable. But you could understand the point of view of certain AEW officials that would say, look, you watch SmackDown, and then you go, I'm in the mood for pro wrestling. I've settled down for my night of pro wrestling. I'll watch Dynamite. I'll watch Rampage. I don't know if people will, because I don't think they're the same audience. I think, if anything, they're more distinct audiences. So, again, it's all very interesting. But AEW, thankfully, they are going to be going back to Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. in July. And it's not a moment too soon. Now, again, we questioned previously, why has AEW done all of these specials? Because not only does AEW return to the Wednesday night time slot in July, not only did they return to the time slot of 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. in July, they also returned to touring in July. So they're actually going to have shows outside of Daily's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. They're actually going to have fans, have events with live fans in attendance. They're going to have all of that, which is great. And to top that off, they're all going to be live specials. They're going to be, Road Rager, Fighter Fest, and Fight for the Fallen. And my questioning of it before was, why are you having 4 TV specials in a row? By the time you get to the 4th special, it's not special anymore. When you have, 4 of anything in a row, it's not really special. It's like saying, I tell you what, I'm going to have an ice cream as a treat. Oh, I'm going to have an ice cream as a treat tonight because I never have one. Then the next night, what do you have? I'll have an ice cream as a treat tonight. Well, I thought you had one yesterday. Yeah, but it's only 2 in a row. Next night, I'll have an ice cream as a treat tonight. By the 4th one, it's no longer a treat. That's a habit. And we're going to be hoping and waiting for a normal episode of Dynamite after Fight for the Fallen. And I questioned at the time, why are they doing that? It's surely, by the time the 4th special comes around, it'll feel a bit stale. The reason why, it's obviously that they're doing it. The reason why they're doing it is because they want the ratings. They need the ratings. They need the viewership. They want to win that audience back. It's two-pronged. Obviously, they want to sell tickets, obviously, but also they want to have viewership. They want to have ratings because they've just lost a load of viewers by this preemption of going to Friday night. So how do you get them back? Put on TV specials, sell tickets, sell viewership. That's what they want to do. So it's a fascinating time for AEW in terms of the rating, in terms of going back on tour. Absolutely fascinating. Mark Henry. Now, Mark Henry's been in the news a lot recently since joining AEW. Obviously, he's been signed to be a color commentator for the aforementioned Rampage show. He's also been signed to be a coach, a producer backstage, also a talent scout, and he's been doing the rounds of the media recently, talking about his signing with AEW. He's also been speaking on his own show, the Busted Open Radio show / podcast, about what he has in planned for AEW. And again, he's been making a lot of news about talking about people like Braun Strowman, Daniel Bryan, etc., etc. Now, during a recent appearance on Renee Paquette's podcast, Oral Sessions, Mark Henry did reveal the small things that can be done to help improve the in-ring AEW product. Something which a lot of people like, but certainly other people do question things like the psychology and the overabundance of high spots, false finishes, etc. Now, Mark Henry highlighted that he was not a fan of spots being repeated, and that would be one particular thing he would be on the lookout for. He said, wrestling-wise, I want everybody to watch matches before them because there's a repetition thing. Somebody will do a tope, and then the next match you'll have 2 topes, and then the next match you'll have 3 topes. Stop trying to outdo what you saw before. Find something else to do rather than that. Repetition is a kind of pet peeve of mine. I feel like you're not watching the product if you go out and do something that somebody else just did the same thing. I love the Bucks doing super kicks. Why are there 3 matches on the card that somebody does a super kick before them? If that was me, I would be upset about it. Now, Mark Henry's also been talking about how he's been preparing for the role in AEW, speaking about his role on AEW Rampage, which of course debuts on Friday, August 13 on TNT. He discussed how he's been preparing for the position. He said, quote, I've been watching wrestling and I've been talking over the commentators, saying what I would say and putting the emphasis on what I would put the emphasis on. I'd ask the question to the person, why do you think that is? And then I'd tell you and not leave it up to that person for interpretation. The reason he did that is because he scouted that out. He saw what he did last week. You have to process that stuff pretty quickly, said Mark Henry. So I'm interested to see how Mark Henry does on commentary. I think if he adapts to it like Paul White does, I think he'll be an excellent addition to the Rampage team. I really do. But what I did want to talk about, and this is why I highlighted this interview that Mark Henry did here, is because I totally agree with him. I totally agree with him. I've said this several times when I speak about AEW here on the channel. We talk about all forms of pro wrestling. We talk about, WWE, AEW, Impact, everything under the sun, any big story, we'll talk about it here on the channel. I'll share my opinion, I'll share my analysis, you'll share yours in the comment section below. That's why I love doing this. I think it's a great open forum, no judgment, say what you want, say what you feel, no judgment, and it's just a creative and, a constructive dialogue between you and I and between you and the other people in the comment sections. It's great, it really is. But I agree with Mark Henry here, and again, and like I said, I'm not an AEW stan by any stretch of the imagination. I like Dynamite. I watch it every week. I like WWE. There's parts that I criticize. I'm not a fan of Raw at the moment, but I still watch it because I'm a fan of pro wrestling. I like what I like, and I'll praise what I think is good, and I'll criticize which I think could be done better or I don't like. When it comes to the AEW in-ring product, there are certain matches. Some of the matches that AEW have put on have been incredible. You know, I think back to Kenny Omega and Adam Page, Hangman Page versus the Young Bucks at Revolution last year. Amazing. I think back to Kenny Omega versus Ray Phoenix earlier this year. Incredible. I mean, I could list a ton of matches. Obviously, Cody Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes at the inaugural Double or Nothing event. It was incredible. Fantastic match. But there certainly is a part of the AEW in-ring product that I think frustrates, certainly it frustrates me, and I think it frustrates other people, and I think Mark Henry's, that's one of the issues that he's pointed out is sometimes, and AEW isn't alone for this. I think this has kind of infiltrated all of pro wrestling at this point, but certainly I grew up watching pro wrestling where one person had a super kick, that's it. You didn't have everyone else doing super kicks on that show. Now, I know you could say, well, the DDT, that kind of happened with that. That's a fair criticism. But it's the same for dives. It's the same for dives. There was a dive in the first match, suddenly there's a dive in the next match, suddenly there's 3 dives in the next match, suddenly there's this and there's that. And it's kind of like, not that you're watching the same match. I don't think that's fair to say, I feel like I've watched this match earlier, because that's not a fair criticism, I don't think. It's just a case of wrestling should be a variety show. I get that. But also, if I was a pro wrestler and I saw that everyone else was doing super kicks, and I saw that everyone else was doing topes, and I saw that everyone else was doing this, and they're all repeating it and doing the same thing, why would I want to do the same thing as them? I understand that's what pops the audience. I understand that's what pops the crowd. But I would want to pop the crowd doing something different. The biggest pro wrestlers of all time have been unique in their presentation and their moveset. They're completely unique, and they have their own thing. You think Steve Austin would allow someone else to be doing the Thez press or stumping a mud hole or doing whatever during his time? You think Steve Austin would allow someone to, maybe using the stunner is a bit of an exaggeration because it's the same finish, but you know what I mean. He wouldn't be allowing people to do that. You think The Undertaker would be allowing people to do old school or doing walking the ropes? No, of course he wouldn't. He'd say, look, walking the ropes is my gimmick. That's my thing. You have to, I think Mark Henry's totally right, and I've heard him say this. I've heard a lot of people say this. Steve Austin, Dutch Mantel, all said this. You have to watch every match on the show. You hear the stories about John Cena as well. Sitting in the gorilla position, watching the entirety of the show. Why? Because you need to become familiar with the wrestler's moveset, and you also need to see what's been done. Okay, that was done earlier, I won't do that. That was done earlier, I want to do that. Why? Because you want to stand out. You want to stand out. You want to be unique. In addition to that, you want to give the audience something they haven't seen before. If you're going on last, the audience has seen a plethora of other matches at that point. They've seen all of these different moves. They've seen all of these different presentations. It's up to you as a top person in the industry to say, right, I'm going to give them something completely different. I'm going to send them home happy. And again, I agree with Mark Henry. Repetition is a bit of a pet peeve of mine as well. It's like, we've seen it. Who's having the discussions here? There are certain times, and this is like early 90s, late 80s, but it's true. You couldn't even do dives to the outside of the ring. You couldn't go outside of the ring in the opening match because, again, cards should build. The opening match should be the opening match, and then they build to a crescendo. Now, it doesn't really work like that nowadays, but I agree with Mark Henry. And if he can add that kind of influence to the in-ring product, if he can add some form of, just little touches like that, psychology, whatever, that improves the product overall. It improves the in-ring product, and it improves the product overall. So I totally agree. I totally agree on Mark Henry, and I think it's a fair criticism to make. Now, Sammy Guevara and MJF had a bit of a back and forth on Twitter, which was quite fun. AEW star and leader of the Pinnacle, MJF, recently mocked Sammy Guevara on social media. Now, recently, Booker T shared a throwback photo. WWE Hall of Famer Booker T shared a throwback photo of himself and a young Sammy Guevara on his Twitter account. The tweet was in response to Sammy Guevara's unbelievable performance in the main event of Double or Nothing. However, MJF had a completely hilarious take on the picture. This is what MJF had to say. You can see the tweet here. He just said, ha, 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 ha. He was laughing like the Joker, and I tell you what, look at that picture. It's crazy. It makes me feel super old, by the way. I don't consider myself really, really old, but my goodness, I see a picture of Booker T there. That's Sammy Guevara, and look at that haircut. My, oh, my. So MJF had a lot of fun with that one. He certainly did. He had a lot of fun, and I don't blame him for having a lot of fun with that one. But Sammy Guevara wasn't to be overdone, because MJF certainly has his fair share of embarrassing photos of when he was younger online, and they've certainly surfaced on social media, and Sammy Guevara is too quick to point them out. Let's take a look at them. The first one was this one, which was a young MJF with CM Punk. Now, trying to judge what kind of era CM Punk that is, that looks to be what? Certainly WWE era CM Punk. I would say circa 2008. I have a feeling that's like World Heavyweight Champion CM Punk on Monday Night Raw. I might be wrong on that one, but that's what it feels like. Sammy Guevara said quote, "Yo, WTF," and then responded with the same ha-ha-has that MJF did. But Sammy Guevara, once again, wasn't to be overdone by that one. And he then posted the famous picture of MJF on the Rosie O'Donnell show. Now, again, I'm trying to think when this would have been, because when was the Rosie O'Donnell show? That was early 2000s, I think. Early 2000s, again, I might be wrong. But MJF was, he was a guest. I think it was just a comedic segment, whatever, on the Rosie O'Donnell show. But certainly a funny exchange. I enjoyed it immensely. Speaking of Twitter exchanges about the Young Bucks, the AEW World Tag Team Champions and Executive Vice Presidents of AEW, obviously they appeared at Impact Wrestling against all odds this past weekend as well. They are known for trolling their rivals in the same vein as MJF and Sammy Guevara on social media through their witty posts and bios on Twitter. While in a new tweet, the Young Bucks targeted multiple AEW stars to send everyone their messages. Now, in recent months, the Young Bucks have dominated every new challenger they faced off against and still hold on to the AEW World Tag Team Championships today. Now, Matt and Nick Jackson have also added insult to injury with unnecessary assaults on their opponents. Now, on yesterday, the Young Bucks took to Twitter to remind everyone about the list of opponents they have taken out so far. They posted the following tweet, saying SCU check, MOCKS check, Phoenix check, Pac check, LMAO. Laugh my ass off. That's what that means. So they are trolling a lot of people. It was actually Dax Harwood, I believe it was, from FTR, who, of course, the Young Bucks defeated for the AEW World Tag Team Championship, responded saying he doesn't care. But it's an interesting point to make that we'll finish off here. Who is going to be the tag team to defeat the Young Bucks for the AEW World Tag Team Championship? It's difficult to say. You know, AEW has arguably one of the most in-depth tag team divisions in the world, arguably the best tag team division in the world, but they're beating pretty much all of them. Who do they face off against? I would have loved to see Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley win the AEW World Tag Team Championships at Double or Nothing. Obviously, Mox is taking some time off, seemingly, because of going on paternity leave. But it's an interesting point to make. So you can let me know who you think is going to be the next AEW World Tag Team champions in the comment section below. But look, guys, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all of these AEW news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about AEW, Impact Wrestling, WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved with the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.